Okay, we're going to look at some more projects. These are all different requirements, but the idea should be clear. This are links to each page, and there's a picture in the background, and we have a nice dashboard of information that shows us all the charts that we can look at to see the different students. All these projects are based on a classroom, and you can look at the student ID, and we can pick a different student ID for each student, and then all this information will change based on that, and then the class average and all these different things we can still see perfectly fine. This is our data, and you can see that this data has some conditional formatting in it, so Manage Rules will tell you about that conditional formatting. And again, over here, you can choose a student, and then the information will be looked up using various types of VLOOKUP and other things like that based on the data. Some of these columns use different formulas to be created as well, using if statements, as we've done. Some are a little bit more complicated than others. Some are just data. These are, these are a bunch of different charts that display the stuff that was built, that was put in the front. And here are all the summary statistics that we can get for our data with a histogram explaining it as well. Here's behavior, and this is built using some type of lookup or whatever it is, the database functions or something like that. And then we have the performance of how everybody did. We can use different functions to get the grades. So this is some type of function that's being used to get the grades. And we have our pivot tables that display the data with a pivot chart that's here, with the information in the pivot table being here and some of the stuff being created themselves. Not everything being used. We have a one variable data table over here, and we have a two variable data table, which is pretending as if there is some type of tuition, and we're looking at the deductions and how much people would have to pay. A one variable data table showing whether they can pay, and then what would happen, how much they paid over different amounts of time based on that. So again, all these pieces of information nicely put together, trying to explain this. So here we have Sunny Hills High School and a bunch of different group members who made a great, beautiful dashboard that we can look up information. So for instance, if we pick somebody else like Ray, and then we see that the name is Dawson, all the information changes. We can see the student activities, and we can see how they're doing in class, and it's a nice dashboard because everything's connected to these drop-down lists, and everything changes accordingly. Here, we can again pick a name of a student, and we'll go back to Teresa, and you can see the information that changes, and we can see the number of students per city, and this is just our data that allows us to look at that. We can analyze student performance with lots of different metrics that are put in, conditional formatting, some conditional formatting rules, etc., and then some analysis and stuff like that about how the student is doing. Student activities that we have some pivot table over here, and then we have the data on the outside. Again, same thing. These are statistics. These are different outputs that we're interested in. So a lot of nice charts and a lot of nice setup and explanation of everything that we're covering. Here is Mrs. Andrews' second grade class. We have our dashboard of all the different charts. This is nice. This is a nice chart that we have over here, and then it tells me information about how to access these things. For instance, to choose a student, and then I can get information about that student, and you have the histogram, and you can move this over a little bit, and you can see what's over here as well with all the analysis. So you can pick somebody, and you can do it per last name, and everything will change accordingly with this, the performances and all the information. So then in these different areas, we have setup, and over here, we have the rooms and the labels all built in so everyone can see what's going on, and we have information all being set up, averages per trimester, etc., with different pictures and pieces of information about the pass-fail rate and the charts that describe how students are doing in different classes. Each of these final grade analysis, some more functions, and etc., trying to explain what's going on with all the data and how when the students were present, when they were not present, penalties and other stuff like that for such a thing. Behavior, here we have our buttons like we've had before, where we can pick a student and then we can display that data accordingly. So everything relying on the buttons and much more. So here we have classroom jobs, every job that a student had in the classroom and what they're supposed to do with it. And we can use that to analyze all the data. Over here, this one has the information. This is just the setup about how the students are doing, academic performance. You can choose something from the drop-down list and it'll compare everything. We have, again, some more comparisons. You can choose somebody over here and then you can see their table and you can see how they're doing in different assignments. You can check their final grade, and this is a data table over here measuring how they could do better and what they need to do better, etc. Here's some more charts and data analysis. This is really the cool one, which is that this changes the seating arrangements based on how each student is doing. So each student has their name here, which is based on this formula, and it's going to move them so that weaker students sit next to better students. So not something simple, but here's, again, some pivot tables that have a bunch of information and fields and other things that were created that were outside the data to help us understand the data, measures, and then here we have the different jobs that a student can have, and we can do that. We can clear the jobs, and then we can put in the jobs, and we can randomly assign jobs to every student and every person. This is actually using some VBA, but it's there. And then here's some more data tables and stuff like that. So quite good job that different people made. Going through, in other words, the first page, and this is mostly roster and different criteria and other things that they're looking at, statistics, but nice setup for everything to display how it is, and these areas are grouped together. You have late fees for the library, and you have that in a table over here. So a lot of really good ideas about how to set this stuff up and how to use it using, here's tuition and how much they'd have to pay, and these are data tables, and everything that would change, and what the annual investment would be if they wanted to save up to do this. So a lot of really good ideas together, going through the different setups. Here's another dashboard, not full, it should be a lot more if it was a dashboard, but the idea, the setup for the ideas is good. And so in each project was actually quite different, the requirements for it, looking at pivot tables and other stuff like that. But that's the general idea, which is that we have all of our data, we have ways of analyzing it, explaining it, presenting it, charts and formulas, and all basically using everything that's possibly here, from you making sure to use names and all the different functions, and making sure to, under the data tab, to use advanced filters in order to do it, use database functions, use COUNTIF functions and SUMIF functions, and flash fills, and other things to manage your data, use the data model to store it, use a data table to figure out different scenarios, use GoalSeek, use Solver, use the data analysis tab to do things. So all of these different things, and use all the stuff on the home tab, such as conditional formatting and all different cases where you can create your own rule and everything like that. All of these different things are there to present the data properly and to understand it, including using VBA and some of the form controls that help you to present the data. So that's another example of how to set this up.